Hey, what's up, good people, and welcome to this episode of the Indie Tip of the Week. My name is Chris Clay. I am the ambassador for indie artists and great indie music. And before we even get started with the episode, I am excited. We got our very first sponsor. We have to say thanks to the Internet Radio Broadcasters Alliance for sponsoring this episode of the Indie Tip of the Week. The Internet Radio Broadcasters Alliance got something special waiting for you indie artists. Now, if you've been wanting to get your record up and running on the radio, didn't have the money or whatever, they've made it extremely affordable for you. For just $999, you can get your record launched in an 8 to 12 week program. That's right, guaranteed 8 to 12 weeks based on the record that they will promote your record, get your record spun on all these radio stations, and it's guaranteed you will get the airplay. So why don't you get yourself over to internetradiobroadcaster.com and find out all the information, okay? Now, on to this episode of the Indie Tip of the Week. This week, we decided that because we get so many emails of people asking us questions, people giving us comments, all kinds of stuff, we decided we would stick our hand inside the mailbag and try and answer all of your questions on camera. So, we're going to pick the best 10 questions, which we've already done, and we're going to do our very best to answer them in this episode of the Indie Tip of the Week. So let me pull them up right off my timeline. Thanks for these tips. I watch them weekly on the Indie Tip of the Week. My question is I'm about to launch my first single ever, and I want to know, what do I really need to get started? Music video, street team, etc. Mark. Hey, Mark, thank you so much first for watching the Indie Tip of the Week. We really appreciate it. Now, what do you need? Obviously, you need a record that's been mixed, mastered, and edited for radio. Secondly, I think that you would definitely need some kind of way of getting your record out to those radio stations. So some type of promotion team. You could do it yourself. You could hire somebody to do it. You could do it either way, whichever way you want. And I think that, you're asking about a music video. Music videos are important because we live in a very visual society, but a music video isn't necessary for you to launch a record. Now, I really believe that you should have a video coming within 2 to 3 weeks of the launch of your record because people like to get the visual feel of music. So I think that a music video will help garner and lock in your fans. So I believe that you should at least try and do some kind of cheap music video to go along with it. Now, do you need to go, and it really depends on, do you really want to go real wide with the record? Meaning, are you trying to go across the country? Are you trying to penetrate just the area? Those are questions that I think you have to ask yourself. And then if you're just trying to go regional with a record, then you make sure that you have enough money to cover the region and doing the promotion that it takes to get your record exposed at radio and throughout all the different outlets, clubs, parties, anything that's going on in your marketplace that plays music. You want to make sure that you have enough resources to cover all of those things. Thank you, Mark, for your question. Our next question. I'm on the email list for the Indie Weekly chart. How accurate is this chart in relation to real airplay? Katrina, thank you so much for your question. And yes, that's a very good question. That chart is 100% real. The Internet Radio Broadcaster Alliance pulls that data from Digital Radio Tracker every Sunday, and that's how that chart is compiled. It's not somebody calling in and saying, hey, this is what I'm playing. They actually pull that data from a computer system and see exactly what each of those radio stations have played and how many times they've played it over the course of a 7-day period. And on Sundays, that's when the new chart comes out, and I'm sure that's when it's emailed to you. But that chart is solely based on airplay. It's not based on popularity. It is clearly based on airplay only. So it's very, very accurate to answer your question. Moving right along. You never talk about podcasts. Do you think that podcasts help with your brand? Jason, again, I don't talk about podcasts, but I'm glad you brought it up. Podcasts is very, very important in this landscape of music. A lot of people only chase radio. Well, podcasts is just an individual radio station that has its own set of fans. And there are some podcasts, like, for instance, I do a podcast, The Soul Cafe. That thing is downloading 10,000 podcasts in the U.S. alone, and about another 7,500 podcasts overseas, Japan, Australia, Hawaii, Germany. We have a lot of people that's downloading the podcast. So I think that podcast is very, very important, because people not only listen to the podcast, but they download it and put it in their collection, and they play it over and over again. If they're hearing your record, then they become a fan of your record. So if you have access to send your record to different podcasters, I highly recommend that you do that. It's very affordable because it's free in most cases. And if they like the record, they add it to their podcast, and millions of people get to hear it every week. So definitely, I say I highly recommend working people that have podcasts. Very important to the movement of your brand. As we move along, we thank you so much for that. What was his name? Jason. Thank you so much, Jason, for your question. Next, I'm planning to have a CD release party to release my new full length. What should I expect in doing this? Tim. Thank you so much, Tim. We really appreciate you. I don't know if I'm the person to ask about release parties, because I think release parties are a waste of time. That's my personal opinion. I think that I think you waste a lot of money feeding and drinking people, and they come to your party, they eat up your food, and at the end of the day, let's just say that you have 100 CDs there to sell. Most people expect you to give it to them. They don't want to buy it. You'll probably, if you had 100 CDs, you'll probably sell 20 of them, but everybody in the room want one, but not everybody wants to buy one. I think that money can be spent in better places. I would prefer to see, and this is what I would do, so I would prefer to see you take that money, really spend it on launching the record, get the record popular, and at that point have a party to celebrate the things that you've accomplished versus celebrating the release of a record. I think you're going to need that money down the road to promote the record. So I'm not a big proponent of spending that money early, because you don't know what kind of roadblocks you're going to run into in releasing the record. But if you have a nice budget set aside and you've covered all your bases and you got some money left over, by all means, celebrate your accomplishment with your friends, your family, and make sure that if you're going to do that, though, and let me add this, if you're going to have a release party, you should invite everybody that plays records. So let's start with radio station DJs. You should invite podcasters. You should invite video people there so that they can do interviews with you. You should invite newspaper, record stores, invite anybody that has something to do with the music. Get them at your party and give them free admission. Do not charge them to come to your party. So if you're going to do that, make sure that your guest list makes sense, okay? Because I've seen a lot of release parties where it's more family and friends and nobody in the industry. So you've had this great party, but nobody in the industry even knows that you even exist. So if you're going to do that, make sure your guest list is set up right so you have all the right people at your party, okay? Thank you so much for that question. And we are moving on. On the song split episode, you said you would post your royalty statement, and it never happened. Is there a place I can go to see what one looks like? Jonathan, you're absolutely right. On the last episode of the Indie Tip of the Week, I did say it at the top that we would post it. Thanks to these fine people that's behind these cameras, they didn't put it up, so let's put it up right now. This is a BMI sheet, and this is exactly what it looks like. It shows, first of all, where it's blurred out at is how much money you made. And then down here at the bottom, it shows all of the songs that got played that you wrote or you have publishing with, and shows where it got played, shows how many times it got played, shows all this stuff. This is what a publishing royalty sheet looks like when you're getting paid. And sorry that we didn't put it up. I'm sorry that Heather did not make sure that the editor put it up, but here it is now. So check it out. I'll just be quiet so you can scan through it just a little bit, and then we'll move on to the next question. All right, next question. I'm a background singer, songwriter. I'm a background singer and songwriter, and most of the people I work with want to do back end deals. Should I have a contract stating when the payment is due? George. George, I think that anytime that somebody owes you money, you should have a payday. What day am I going to get paid? I've seen a lot of deals where people say, I want you to come and sing on this record for me, and if we make this amount of money, I'm going to pay you. I just don't think that that's right. You did a job. I think you should get paid. I think that I understand that money is tight, especially for artists. So I think that, yes, if there's going to be some payment due later, I think you should have a contract. There should be a due date on when you should pay me. I don't think that it should be based. I don't think that the person doing the work should take the gamble with you, if you will. Now, there are some homeboys, homegirls at trade services. That's absolutely fine. If I'm a singer and you're a saxophone player, I sing on your record, you play on my record, that's a fair trade, that's great. But if I'm just doing the work and you want to pay me on the back end, I think you should have a contract stating when I'm going to get paid, and I am not a part of if your record sells or not. That's not a part of the deal. If your record don't sell, you still owe me this amount of money, because we don't know what records are going to do. We hope that they sell, but we don't know if they're going to sell. And I think that you, as an artist that's doing the background singing or whatever you're doing on a record, I think you should be compensated for your work. So yes, you should have a contract stating when you're going to get paid, how much you're going to get paid, and make sure that you hold them accountable for that. If they don't pay you, then at least you have something in your hand that you can take to court, and the court will force it that they will have to pay you. Okay? Don't be an idiot and do it on a handshake. That's not cool. We appreciate you for your question, Mr. George. Next question comes from Stacy. Stacy says, which of the writing organizations is the best? Is it ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC? Stacy, that's a great question. They're all one and the same. They all do the exact same thing. I personally find that BMI pays really fast, faster than ASCAP, and I've been with them for a very long time, almost 20 years, and every quarter they're always on time with the money. So my personal experience, because I use them, I'm going to say BMI, but I've been looking at CSAC, and CSAC is definitely on the grind. They got the money. They're giving up some nice publishing deals. They're giving up some nice writing deals. So before you sign up, I would say definitely take a look at CSAC. CSAC was back in the back of the pile, but now they're really racing to come to the top of the heap, and I think they got some really good things. You'll find that a lot of popular songwriters are published, and all of their catalog is through CSAC, because obviously CSAC is paying some good money, and obviously they pay it up front and do some really cool deals. I don't know exactly, because I'm not a part of that, but this is what I'm hearing, and things that I've read on their website look like they're doing some really cool stuff. So I would definitely say check it out. Check out CSAC before you sign up with any, but I'm a BMI user. They've been very fair to me, and it's worked for me over 20 years. Our next question comes from a guy named Charles. How much money do I need to put out a record minimum? Minimum. I'm going to ask a question. And I'll answer the question as I ask it. How far do you want to go with the record? Now, if you're trying to go across the United States and get airplay, I would have to say about $85,000, $90,000. If you're trying to do a regional thing, say for instance, you're trying to just do like the East Coast, like all the way from New York all the way down to Florida, I'm going to again go with somewhere around $25,000, $30,000 to get you a nice showing. If you're trying to do a local thing, you might need $4,000 or $5,000. And if you're just trying to do an internet thing, you might do maybe $3,000, $4,000. So it just depends on how far you want to go with your record. So I think that you have to ask yourself that. How far do I want to go? Most people want to go across the world. They want to be at the Grammys, at the Billboard, and all that stuff. Well, you're going to need about $85,000, $90,000. But if you're trying to just launch your record and be able to get some rotation, trying to just see if you have a record, I would safely say do an internet program. And that internet program program can cost you anywhere from about $2,500 to about $3,000, and so I would put that at the minimum, $3,000, and from there you can actually receive money for your publishing from Sound Exchange, and then you could take that money and just continue to grow your brand out. So I would say the minimum, to answer your question, would be $3,000. Our next and final question. I really want to tour overseas with my music. What do I need to do to make this happen? Charnel. Charnel, thank you so much for your question. We really appreciate it. And a lot of people ask that. A lot of people want to leave the United States and go overseas with their music. So I think we'll answer this for a lot of people. What do you need to do? The first thing you need to do is hire a plugger. Now, a plugger overseas is just considered as a promotion person here in the United States. But you need to hire an overseas plugger that's going to plug your record, promote your record, and get it played on radio, because the only reason that you would go overseas is that you're popular. Now, you could just go there and play some bars, I guess, and kind of work your way around, and hopefully people dig you and you might get into some bigger venues by doing that. But you would have to have a lot of money set aside. Now, I know some people, some personal musician friends of mine that were musicians, and they went over and just started playing with bands and showing their craft and their skill, and next thing you know, they started playing with bigger bands, and now they're like the big dogs over there. Again, it's going to require you doing something and putting up some money so that you can live during those down times. But if you want to stay here and have your music played over there and hope that the phone's going to ring, them calling you to come over there, I would say hire a plugger and let a plugger go ahead and start making your music happen over there. And once you have a buzz, I'm sure that your phone will ring of people calling you and wanting to book you overseas. Now, that process can take a while, so don't be impatient, but it could happen if you have a good record. And I think it depends on what kind of record you got. You know, overseas, especially in the UK, the UK really loves soul records. They really love dance records. So if you're doing a record like that, it might happen really fast. If you're doing like a hip hop record, I don't know. I'm not in that space. I don't occupy that space. So I don't know. I don't really have the answer for that, but I will go do some research and find out for you. But I see a lot of people from the U.S. that get invited. Just most recently, one of my friends, Michonne Young, she just recently got invited over to the U.K. She just put out a brand new album. Her record jumped off over there, and they brought her over. She performed for 6-7 days. They paid her, and now she's back in Detroit with all her cash in her hand. I don't know how much they paid her. She didn't divulge that information to me. And if she did, I wouldn't tell it anyway. But I know she got paid because I know Michonne, and she's not working for free. But they took her over there and gave her a week worth of work. And she was able to expose her music to a wide audience. And now she has a whole new fan base. So perhaps you could be like that, okay? Hopefully we answered some important questions of people that have written in and tweeted us these questions and all this stuff. And we will continue to dig our hand in the mailbag. You know what? We might even do this, Heather. Write this down. What we may do is we may have a question of the week. That way, these questions don't pile up. And then maybe once a month, we'll just do a segment like we're doing right now, where we just answer questions and not really give you a topic, and just let you guys flood in the questions, and I'll do my very best to answer them for you. Okay? So write that down, Heather. Don't let me forget. Question of the week. We'll do that. Let's put that in the show. But right now, you know what time it is. It is time for the Indie Artist of the Week. Los Angeles-based singer and songwriter first hit the airwaves in 2015 with her single Satisfaction. She's been working on her debut EP ever since, and now it's a reality. It's called Late Bloomer. Malia says she's truly at the point where she's embracing her journey at every step on the way, because when she first started doing music, she would get frustrated and think, I wish I could already play this. I wish I was already doing these things. Well, I think she's doing it to perfection. That's why she's our Indie Spotlight Artist of the Week. Let's take a listen.
Feeling lighter, bring life when you come around. It's no wonder, babe. Feel like summer weather now. guess I'm okay. Just another day without you, babe. Said nothing wrong with today. Still wouldn't mind if you came my way. Just another day. No need to dress up, go throw your chucks on. No need to wine and dine me or play a love song. Guess I'm just looking for a conversation. I'll roll the weed, let's get medicated. And now we're feeling giddy, goofing off, acting silly.
Now that's some fantastic stuff right there. Hopefully you'll hit the buy now button and continue to support this artist as they continue to move their brand forward. People, we thank you so much for stopping by and checking us out. And if you need to get in touch with me, you can find me right here. TheBusinessOfMusic101.com is where I reside. All my information is there. I would love to talk to you, love to email you back, talk to you on the phone. Just call me. My phone number is there. My email address is there. I would love to talk to you. And don't forget, this episode is brought to you by the Internet Radio Broadcasters Alliance. Right now, they got a $999 special for all you indie artists trying to launch your record at the top of the year. Take that tax money and invest it in yourself and get your record happening. Now, off the beaten path here, why is that important? Because normally a radio program on the Internet Radio Broadcasters platform normally costs you about $2,500. They're saving you $1,500. Now, this deal ends on February the 13th, 2018. So mark that down. February the 13th, 2018. This deal is over. So if you got a record, it's mixed, mastered, edited for radio, and ready to go, you need to go to the Internet Radio Broadcaster.com website and check out all the details and go ahead and get your record launched so you can start getting some of this songwriting money, some of this publishing money, build your fan base, sell more product, and who knows, you may be on tour sometime soon. It all depends on if people dig your record, but you got to start somewhere, and at $999, it's a great place to start. We thank them so much for sponsoring this episode of the Indie Tip of the Week. I'll be back in a couple of weeks with another hot tip for you. Until then, my friends, please keep the music playing real loud. Just like you, I'm still trying to figure it out. To tell the truth, love yourself, that's what it's about.